The media has created widespread fear of cults with the popularization of famous cult leaders such as Charles Manson or Jim Jones. The cults of these two leaders are widely known, therefore this video today will discuss lesser known cases. Let's start with the Vampire King, also known as Marcus Wesson. "If you've seen God, you've seen me," was what Marcus Wesson told his family turned followers. He forced his family to pray for hours a day, staging a homemade marital ceremony to an 8-year-old who was his first bride. The 8-year-old had been his former stepdaughter whom he convinced that God had chosen her for him. By age 14, he had impregnated his child bride, whom he had already impregnated 11 times when Wesson was 27 years old. Wesson sexually abused 2 daughters and 3 nieces when they were between the ages of 7 and 9. He impregnated them all and threatened to harm them if they exposed he was the father of their children. He claimed Jesus was a vampire in his homemade version of the Bible. He urged his family to prepare for the end which would come when the devil with the badge and blue uniform came. He was said to be a controlling mastermind who dominated his family with his cruel punishments that would last for months in some cases. The punishments lasting for months would consist of over 60 beatings in a day. None of the children were ever sent to school, making them homeschooled. Struggling through poverty, the family lived in boats, shacks, and vacant houses. Wesson was continuously forcing the children to give them their hard-earned wages from jobs. Things took a drastic turn when a custody battle ensued between Wesson and one of his nieces. After the police showed up concerned over a custody dispute, there was a standoff. The police were successful in arresting Wesson. However, after raiding the house, 9 bodies were found. They were all his children. The children who were not home survived the incident. Marcus Wesson was sentenced to death in 2005 on 9 counts of first-degree murder and 14 sex crimes, including rape and molestation. Roch Theriault, like most cult leaders, was charismatic and of persuasive nature. Theriault deemed himself Moses and was convinced of an upcoming apocalypse of good versus evil, where he would be the savior of his followers. His followers were a group of people who quit their jobs to follow him. They were deemed the anthill kids. The name comes from their difficult work, which was comparable to that of an ant. Roch's cult was dedicated to being sin-free and followed the rules of no tobacco, alcohol, or drugs and eating healthy. After the cult was established, Theriault began to isolate his subjects by forbidding them to talk to their families or even amongst each other if he was present. Theriault also began spying on his members and punishing ones who seemed like they were not loyal. Those who tried to leave the cult would be punished by the enraged leader with belts and hammers. Some were even tormented by Theriault pulling each hair out of their body one by one. Theriault would also sometimes defecate on those attempting to leave. However, the cruel punishment inflicted on those who chose to stay was far worse. Theriault had 26 children from females who belonged to the cult. The children were sexually and physically abused, and when angry, Theriault began to punish the children and cult members by cutting off limbs, toes, and fingers, and even extracting teeth while they were conscious. It didn't stop there, as he forced members to eat their feces or the feces of others, break their own legs, or shoot each other. Sometimes he would nail children to trees and make the other children stone the nailed child. Despite his cruel punishment, most of his followers remained loyal, catering to him or being romanced by him. Theriault's first murder was of a woman whose stomach hurt. Theriault murdered her in a gruesome manner of dissection. He murdered one of his children in a failed circumcision and another by leaving the child out in a blizzard. He nearly killed Gabrielle Lavallee by amputating her arm, removing 8 teeth, and cutting off parts of her breast. Lavallee escaped and went straight to the police. In 1989, Theriault was given a life sentence. However, in 2011, he was murdered by his cellmate. From birth, Adolfo de Jesus Costanzo's mother and father believed he was the chosen one. Costanzo was blessed, and a Haitian ritual referred to as Palo Mayombe was performed. The ritual involved drinking a liquid that human bones were boiled in. It is said the ritual is used for casting spells to obtain riches or become powerful. Costanzo's crime streak began after an internship with a Haitian priest who told him to profit from evil. Costanzo began robbing graves and committing theft. Eventually, Costanzo began to fall into the delusion that he possessed psychic abilities, having said to predict the shooting of Ronald Reagan. Pledging himself to Satan, he began to recruit disciples in Mexico. He also deceived people, claiming he had magical powers to make gangsters invisible and bulletproof from police and their enemies. Costanzo had over 30 clients who were criminals. After being rich from deception, Costanzo began to perform ritual murders in order to feed his cauldron with human offerings. His cult killed at least 23 around Mexico City. They would kidnap strangers and torture and sacrifice them to gain power. In 1987, a family of 7 who did not accept Costanzo was murdered violently after being tortured and mutilated. It is said Costanzo made a fatal error when killing an affluent American student, which caused pressure from the American police force on the Mexican police force to find the killers. The manhunt began and several cult members were caught. When police came for Costanzo, there was a shoot-off that ensued for 45 minutes. Worried he might be caught, Costanzo had a follower shoot him and his lover, Martin Quintana. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe for more content. Thanks so much for watching, guys!